This is Smart Poker Study episode 201, answering your questions about CBetting, session reviews, and taking it one step at a time. If you missed last week's episode number 200, you've got to go back because I answered 3 questions about exploiting live poker calling stations, playing post-flop in 3-bet pots, and folding big uns. It's poker study time, y'all! If you are a first-time listener, welcome to the podcast. And for the veterans out there, thanks for sticking around. And of course, a super big thanks to my newest Patreon supporter, David Morrow. He went to patreon.com/smartpokerstudy this past week, and he started his support. Thank you so much, David. I truly do appreciate it. By going to Patreon, that's patreon.com/smartpokerstudy, you can start your own support of the show, just like David did. There are different levels of support with different rewards attached. And with September coming just around the bend now, there are more rewards going to be released soon. Once you begin your support on Patreon, you'll get the current month's reward, as well as access to the archive of patron-only content. So for just a few dollars a month, you are going to be supporting me, and you're going to be getting some great content to help you improve your poker game. Once again, go to patreon.com/smartpokerstudy to start your support just like David did. Alrighty, it is Q&A time. We have 3 of them today from Mr. Rost, Peter Pomahawk, and Guilherme Santos Benedito. Please visit the show notes page for everything I discussed today, along with screenshots and links at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod201. Alrighty, let's do this! Gambate!
This is damn exciting stuff.
Alrighty, question 1 today comes to us from Mr. Rost. It's about CBetting without HUD stats. And he actually posted this question through a YouTube video that I posted about hand reading. Here's what he said in his comment. He says, "Hi, why do we decide to value CBet if we don't know his stat of fold to CBet? For example, if his fold versus CBet is 45%, he protects his hand 55% of the time. Don't we need more equity than just a top pair weak kicker?" Alrighty, thank you, Mr. Ross, for posting that question within that YouTube video. First, you don't need to know their fold to CBet stat in order to make an initial CBet. Now, this is an intrinsic part of live poker play all the time. Whether you're playing MTTs or cash, if it's live, you make those CBets at the table without a HUD that has tons of stats to help you out. And when you're facing an unknown opponent online, you're doing that exact same thing, betting or calling or raising, whatever it is, without those HUD stats to help. So you don't want to let a lack of stats hamper your play. If you don't know anything about the opponent, you must have an idea of how the average opponent plays at your stakes. If you're average, let's say a limp and then a caller, for example. Let's say they call most flop C-bets, but they fold to most turn C-bets. Maybe the unknown player that you're up against, maybe they limped and then called your raise pre-flop. Then you can expect the same type of play from them. They're going to call you on the flop and then fold on the turn. So whether you have stats on your opponent or not, you must have a reason for every bet, every call, or every raise that you make. You're either going for value and you welcome a call or a re-raise, or maybe you're bluffing and you want them to fold, or maybe you're calling because you beat half of their betting range right now. If you have a clear enough reason behind every single play that you make, you're going to be making more positive EV plays than negative EV plays. Alrighty, thanks again for that comment, Mr. Rost. Question 2 is about improving your session reviews, and this one comes to us from Peter via email. This is what he says. "Right now, I know I need to improve my session reviews. For reviewing, I use the Hold'em Manager, and I actually just replay the winning and losing hands and think about the hands, how I played them, and if I could change something. But I actually don't know what exactly a proper session review should include. I believe that this would improve my game and results." Alrighty, very good question, Peter. What you are doing for session reviews is just fine for somebody who's new to studying. There really isn't any quote-unquote proper session review tactics. They kind of take on any form, like learning from the biggest winning and losing hands. Maybe you're filtering for specific actions taken. Maybe you're looking at the profitability of certain hands or groups of hands, like all the pocket pairs from aces down through tens and then nines through through sixes, that kind of thing. Or maybe you're just rewatching every single hand that you play within a play session. And you said Hold'em Manager 2, that is a great program. I do recommend Poker Tracker 4 though. For you, Peter, I'm not saying ditch Hold'em Manager and buy Poker Tracker 4. They do basically the same thing. But for anybody else who doesn't have any poker tracking software right now, I really recommend Poker Tracker 4, and you can get it by going to smartpokerstudy.com/pokertracker4. And if you purchase the program through that link, email me your purchase confirmation, and I'll send you my Smart HUD in appreciation of your support, of course. So anyway, let's get back to session reviews here. As you use your poker tracking software more and more for your study sessions, the way you conduct your session reviews, it's going to evolve into something over time, and it's going to be your own type of session review. You'll tend to do things that you find most useful, and the way that you play and the ideas that you have as you study, those kinds of things are going to guide you in different directions, probably different than my own study sessions kind of take me. So here are 3 recommendations for your study sessions. Number 1 is to let your questions guide you. As you review your biggest winning and losing hands, you're going to spot mistakes that you made, or you'll ask yourself questions like, why did I not cbet there? When this happens, you can let that question guide you to further studies. Maybe you didn't cbet with ace-king suited when you flopped that nut-flush draw. So you want to dive into this by filtering for all flopped nut-flush draws and regular flush draws and see how often you're actually doing the cbetting here. You want to look at the hands where you failed to cbet and gauge whether the cbet would have been better than checking. And this could also raise more questions like, if I don't cbet the nut flush draw, then what hands am I cbetting? You can filter for like the opportunity to cbet, and then you can also do it on various types of boards as well. You want to dive into these hands to figure out your cbetting tendencies. Maybe you don't realize it, but maybe you're only cbetting pair or better hands. Well, if that's the case, you're probably missing out on a lot of good bluffing and semi-bluff cbetting opportunities. And like the simple example that we're looking at, it might lead you to other questions like, how profitable is ace-king suited for me? Now, when you ask yourself this question, you're going to end up going through and filtering in your database for ace-king suited hands, and you're going to learn from the way you play them. Now, once you do this ace-king suited studying, you're probably going to think to yourself, geez, I should also look into ace-queen. Both suited and offsuit. And heck, I might as well look at ace-king offsuit as well. And it's just going to lead you further down the path here. And another example, let's say you're doing all these cbet studies, right? Maybe you end up spotting a bet sizing problem. Maybe you notice that you're betting half pot with your bluffs, and you're cbetting 2/3 pot for value. Now ask yourself, why is this? This is going to give you a whole new way to filter through your database and learn from how you've been playing. My second recommendation is to save all of your filters. So as you go through and you do study session after study session with your poker tracking software, you're going to find yourself running tons of filters that help you narrow your studies. You want to save each of these filters because by doing so, you're going to save yourself time when you want to rerun these in the future. Now, some filters are really quick and easy, like just 3-bet pre-flop or how your pocket aces are doing or c-betting on the flop. Other filters like a line taken, like flop bet, turn check, river bet, or maybe playing a range of hands, or maybe, you want to filter for facing open raises on the button from an early position player. Those kinds of filters can be pretty darn complex, so saving them saves you time. And also, saving filters helps to remind you of what you've studied in the past. Maybe you know that you have some sort of problem on the turn. Things just don't seem right, and you're often at a loss for what to do. If you go through your database of saved filters and you look for all your turn-related filters, you can pull those up again, and hopefully it will allow you to go back and restudy these types of hands, and it'll remind you of your prior lessons learned. And the final recommendation is to take notes. Always utilize your poker journal as you study hands. You might think that you're going to remember something like, hey, I'm folding too often on the turn with top pair weak kicker hands. But it's really easy to forget things like this. You want to take notes, revisit the notes occasionally, and try to work on the mistakes that you catch yourself making. And speaking of notes, you must utilize the player note-taking feature in the software. Maybe you just caught Johnny 5 making an all-in bluff shove on the flop with a weak gut shot draw. Well, it would be really good to know this for future hands against this player. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/smartpokerstudy. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to it through your computer, your iPhone, your Android, your MP3 player, whatever. And of course, they have my 3 books, How to Study Poker Volumes 1, Volume 2, and Preflop Online Poker. So what I highly recommend is you start your Audible trial, get Preflop Online Poker first as your free book, and then purchase How to Study Poker Volume 1 because it's cheaper than Preflop Online Poker. And 2 shout-outs today. The first goes to Michael Boulos. He left an amazing 5-star review for Preflop Online Poker on Amazon. He called it Building a Roadmap to Success. This is what he says. This book is great for any player, particularly beginner and intermediate players looking to break down and tighten up any preflop leaks. Each chapter builds on the previous chapter and systematically looks to make you a better player by first arming you with the fundamental knowledge and then the applications necessary to implement this knowledge either online or live. For regular players and recreational players looking for a detailed and dynamic study plan for preflop play, hand ranges, and an understanding of how to leverage your HUD and poker tracking software, this is a must-buy. Sky has done a masterful job writing a book that targets each of these topics in depth. Best of all, if you want to ask additional questions, there is no author, coach, or teacher more willing to help. He has tons of resources available and is always quick to respond. Well, thank you very much, Michael. I do appreciate it. You're a Patreon supporter. You leave reviews for my books. You buy my books and everything. Thank you so much, Michael. I do appreciate it. And yeah, I've covered your questions in prior Q&As, and I've done a lot of emailing with you too, back and forth. So thank you very much for that, Michael. I appreciate it. And one other shout out. Claudio Burlek purchased the Getting the Most from Poker Tracker 4 webinar. He went through the show notes page on a prior episode, clicked that link, purchased the webinar, and now he is getting more out of Poker Tracker 4. So you can follow in Claudio's footsteps, go to the show notes for today, click on that link for the Getting the Most out of Poker Tracker 4 webinar, and you can be on your way just like Claudio. Do you want to quit your job and live the life of your dreams? Well, MasterPassiveIncome.com teaches you how to invest in real estate rental properties, which allows you to make money even while you sleep. My brother, and literally my brother Dusty, we grew up together. He's the founder of MasterPassiveIncome.com. He was able to quit his job at just 37 years old, and he can teach you how to do the same. MasterPassiveIncome.com has already helped many people quit their job, and in fact, I'm also learning from him right now. I am taking his course as well and listening to his podcast. With Dusty's guidance through the blog, his podcast, free courses, and community groups, you will learn what it takes to buy a property and make monthly cash flow, which over time will allow you to never need a job again. You can become successfully unemployed. Go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course to get your free real estate investing course that will get you started investing in real estate just like the rich do. So don't wait. Go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course right now to get your free real estate investing course. Alrighty, back to class, poker people. Question 3 comes to us from Guilherme, and it's about focusing on one thing at a time. Here's what he said via email. Hello, Sky. I'm Guilherme from Brazil, and I have a question. In your book, How to Study Poker, you speak to ask the one question that will lead to the most important thing at the moment. And you speak to begin by dividing as open raising ranges, cold calling ranges, and then EP, MP, cutoff, and button work. Is it necessary to use a full week for open raising range in the early position and then another week with opening raising in the MP? Or do I use a full week of open raising from all positions? Alrighty, very good question, Guilherme. Thank you very much. So I would spend a whole week developing and using one range at a time across all the positions. So week 1 is open raising ranges from the EP through the small blind. The next week would be calling 2-bet ranges, and you would do that for the EP all the way through the big blind. Week 3 will be focused on 3-bet ranges from the EP through the big blind, and then week 4 would be 3-bet calling and 4-bet ranges in every single position. So your range work will take at least 4 weeks of study and play. Now, as you play with purpose the first week, you're going to be facing lots of 3-bets, right? Because you're working on your 2-bet ranges by position. But because you haven't worked on your 3-bet calling and 4-betting ranges just yet, when you face that 3-bet, just make the best decision you can. Focusing on one range at a time before moving on to the next is the best way to develop your skills. And this goes for anything that you study. Let's say you bought Ed Miller's incredible book called The Course. This book contains 10 very meaty chapters. They'll help you improve your game in 10 different areas. I recommend to spend 1 week or more per chapter, and don't move on to the next chapter until you feel you have fully comprehended and that you've practiced everything that Mr. Miller discusses in the chapter. Just reading the book straight through in 5 days, it's really easy to do, 2 chapters a day, piece of cake, but you just won't get that much out of the book this way. You want to take your time with whatever you're studying, and don't move on until you feel that you're good and ready. Challenge! Here's my challenge to you for this episode. Pick up the last poker book you read and look at the table of contents. For each chapter, answer this question. What did I learn here? And am I using it efficiently and profitably in every session I play? If you cannot answer the question well, and especially if you can't think of a single thing that chapter taught you or how you use it today, then start back on page 1 and reread, restudy, and re-practice that entire book. You don't want to move beyond chapter 1 until you feel good and ready to. Now it's your turn to take action and shabba-dabba do something positive for your poker game.
Oh, that's it now. Get out there and be somebody. Go write a book.
This episode is not complete until you head to the show notes page at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod201. When you're there, you can find screenshots and links to everything discussed today and to discover ways in which you can support the podcast to keep me keeping on. Thank you so much for listening today. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe and leave a review within your favorite podcatching app. This is the best way, other than that direct word of mouth, that you can help the show grow. And if you have questions, I've got answers. Send me an email to sky@smartpokerstudy.com. And it's a perfect time to do so because next week is going to be a third Q&A. That's right, 3 Q&As in a row because I have some great questions for next week revolving around math and hand reading. And I think my answers to these questions are really going to help out so many of you listeners out there. Word of mouth is the best advertising, so thank you very much for sharing the show with other poker people. Your sharing and caring is what helps us grow. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.